welcome back again. We're just continuing here as we have several cameras going. I never know which one's going to work. I've been using so many different formats the last week. I just got myself a new camera last night. I know OKSANA sent me a beautiful card, thank you card after the funeral, and a little gift from the family, and I wasn't expecting that, but I want OKSANA to know that that gift is going towards a new camera, and that the family knows that this camera or the one that might replace it, because I know there's all these bells and whistles and hardware and memory cards, and which one's going to work out the best, but I'm actually recording for the first time on a camera I just picked up last night, and that through this lens here, the work of your Father will continue of researching all of our people. By the way of camera, not by the printed word, and that your little gift there is going to make a big impact in the world of Ukrainian Baptists there. And I've had several cameras, they've all broken down, but I need a good one, especially for all the interviews that I'm capturing now. I shared with OKSANA the other day, I had an old camcorder and I turned it on for Walter Cahoot's interview, and for the first time in 20 years, it did not work. So we're back here and we're going to continue with OKSANA's memories. For the 50th anniversary, I put a binder together. So a lot of the work was done 9 years ago. And somehow when my daughter was born, kids come along, things kind of started a business, Books for Life. But God uses dates to bring us back on track, and funerals and people just being taken from us. And so what I was able to do was just dig back through here, and it starts with the almanac. But in here, I have a collection of newsletters. And this is many thanks to Dan and Nell Tsiona, because they became editors of the Youth Echo. And OKSANA, this is probably 42 years ago. This is the second copy that I have intact. There's a third copy, but the first copy we had cut and paste back then, if you remember. I think you must have cut the horn, the trumpet from the first one. So the first copy exists, and it basically looks like this. This is the first issue, and I will get my hands on there.
As a matter of fact, that looks like my writing. Isn't that something?
This is your writing, and this is for the archives. And even though Dan passed this on to Nellie 30 years ago, it's being kept, and I'm letting you and anyone know that whatever things come into my hands, as long as I'm alive, it has to be preserved, it has to be kept. Because this is where your history starts. And so I'm just going to ask very quickly, as you start jogging your memory about this, there was an article that Nell Siri wrote at that time. And I just wanted to read that, and then you can kind of get some thoughts going. And it was in issue number 2, volume 2, June 1968, I believe it was. Yes, June 1968, about 6 years after you arrived.
At the time I graduated from high school.
Right about then, and you're going to be heading off somewhere, you leave the church, and that's why you stopped being the editor of the Youth Echo.
That's why I went to nursing school then.
Took over. But here's what someone wrote, Nell Siri, young person of the issue, OKSANA Kostiw, and this is her. This is 40 years later. Some people you meet, like myself, that's Nell Siri, are loud and you have to fight to get a word in. Others have the talent of saying something witty to throw you off guard. OKSANA, quote, Oxy, unquote, is a girl full of life and energy. Her energy simply exhausts you. Boring? Nope. She plans to become a nurse. I picked OKSANA because she has great plans for our young people and hopes and prays that one day she might accomplish them. She is always thinking of our young people and would go out of her way to help them. She really enjoys fun and games, especially when it comes to hockey and football. What more can I say about her but that she has a great personality, and talking to her, one would feel as though you have known her for a long time. At present, she is our editor. That's why I started with her, and is doing a fabulous job. I feel that the young person of the issue should go to her.
Well, thank you so much. I had totally forgotten about that.
That's Nell Siri.
So
you became the first.
Nellie, thank you very much for doing that.
This is going back to Youth Echo, and this is when Dr. Kostiw encouraged us to start a magazine strictly for youth, and he...
You look like you're reading it, Nellie.
I'm not.
These are in the bonus features at the end of the DVD.
The bonus bloopers?
Yeah.
So this is, Dr. Kostiw had a way of finding people that had the skills but didn't know about it. And he always encouraged and promoted and pushed us kindly in a way that that build our personal lives up, but also our spiritual life and also our gifts. And your dad always knew who had gifts.
Oh, that's nicely put. Thank you. Look at this one, Fiona.
Wow, look at this.
The first biography issue in your own newsletter, so you're not going to write about yourself, but Oksana?
Well, I did become a nurse. I don't know about the energy anymore.
Tell us there, it looks like you did about 5 issues, 1968. And I know in the newsletter of the Youth Echo that came out under Walter, he had this professionally printed. It was incredible. All the facts about all of our youth when he was president. And in here are updates about you going off to nursing school. So you come into the church, you have some memories of the youth, and you start the Youth Echo, it's Eastern Canada, and all of a sudden now you leave the church because you moved somewhere. Fill us in.
Now I've gone to Windsor to nursing school, and I guess I remained there for about 5 years.
You lived in Windsor?
I lived in Windsor, worked in Detroit a little bit, and then I came back to Toronto, and I think I started at Hospital for Sick Children, being a nurse then.
So how long did was that the real length of the program, or did you delay it, or was it a 5-year?
No, the program was 3 years. No, I did not flunk out. I did graduate in 3 years. That was the old RN program then. Anyways, and then I stayed there for a couple more years, and then returned here. And I remember when I returned here, coming back to the church, and I guess that's about the time that I started the children's choir.
Yes.
Which was a wonderful blessing.
Yes.
And when some of the members of the kids choir and youth choir sang at my father's funeral, "It Is Well With My Soul," what a blessing that was. What a tribute.
I'm going to hold off youth choir for a bit, because before you did that, I wanted to understand, and I have a lot of albums here, and I'm going to pull them out. I have my whole box of albums here. Bear with me 1 second, and they're here. When I spoke to Mary, there was a chain of pianists in this church.
Yes.
Who was playing the piano when you came, if you can remember, in the 62? Was there a piano player?
There sure was. Alex Osborne played the piano. Alex Osipowicz. Irene.
For the choir and the church, or?
For the church, I'm not sure about the choir. Irene Siri Collins played a lot of piano. She's a great musician.
So there she is there on one of the choir albums. So was she the first in your chain when you remember the pianists?
I imagine so.
Okay, because the almanac was written in 65. Her pictures are in there.
Okay.
So you come on the scene, someone's playing the piano, and there's 3 or 4 of you, and that's why you're here today too, to honor your part in that chain of piano players in the choir. So Alex Osborne played, then
he did play.
Irene Siri
played, and then maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I mean after me I know Irene Lubinsky played, and Mary Shubyak played.
Okay. Mary would have been after you, but before.
Maybe before.
Yes.
Irene.
Irene was after you, and I know she played.
Right.
So we have Mary Shubyak in here. So I was looking, where are you in all the choirs? So there's Mary.
Okay.
There's Irene. I did find you. I know you played the men's choir.
Yes, we did men's choir. Yes, we did some recordings. I remember that. There I am. Yeah.
So you're in the men's choir.
And as a matter of fact, we did some TV stuff too. I don't know if you recall.
Yes.
Mr. Kostiw took the choir, and we did TV programs.
I remember the cameras with all the big spotlights in here, and you probably went off-site too.
We did it here. We went off-site to the studio as well, right?
Okay. I will show this in depth later, tributes to the choir and all the different phases, but I know Mr. Tasluk, him smiling here, as you can see, and all the young people here, all those young faces. There's Alex.
There's Alex. I sang in the choir for a long time.
So you sang first, and then you played?
I sang first, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And when Irene was playing the piano, we had the orchestra, which was really wonderful, because every Sunday evening we came to practice and we played. And at that time, I played the mandolin in the orchestra, and I still have that mandolin. It's not playable, but I still have.
Walter talked about the case he had with all the stickers and how his family doesn't treasure it. So he said he'll take a picture and probably throw it out. But all these memories are special. Do you remember Olena Bridge?
Oh, absolutely! What a beautiful vocalist. Yes.
The voice she had.
She had a phenomenal voice. Absolutely.
I know many times she would come up and do a solo, and she would pull the plug out. because when you sang with a microphone,
yes, right.
she did not need that.
That's
and now all of us in the church always just waited for that. It was either Sunday morning, and the whole routine of unplugging the microphone and everything, because her voice would just carry.
Yes, what a talent.
Carry right through. There are so many more of these, and as I just move on, we're going to transition. I found another picture. There's many of them, but if you would ever think of all the ladies in our church, and there was the
ladies' choir.
The ladies' choir. Right. And there's your mother on the left side, and everyone.
They're all in their Ukrainian shirts.
Yes, all black hair, all young, and this must have been in their early
beautiful.
60s. So they must have been in their 30s or 40s, but just when you look at those smiling faces in the youth, it's just, there's Nora Osborne and Mary Prokopyak.
Yes.
Every single one of these ladies I remember and I know.
Yes.
And
those beautiful women.
Those were.
There's your wife's mom.
Yes, Mrs. Shtuka there. These were Mrs. Osipovich, Mrs. Tasluk there, Mrs. Lutzik, and I'm hoping to interview later this afternoon. But there are so many members of the choir, and I might not have all of them, but I wanted to get them all in the proper years, and just do a little tribute there for Mr. Tasluk as well.
You know, Peter, if I'm not mistaken, the ladies actually embroidered
their own shirts?
Their own shirts. It may not have been every lady doing their own shirt, but they did it for each other. So that was a work of art too, and they all look so beautiful there.
It's a beautiful picture.
What a representation, yeah.
That's absolutely incredible there. So you played you go to nursing school, you come back, do you recall, I'm just trying to tighten that up, did you play for the choir before you went to nursing school when you were the youth, or did you basically play when you came back? How's your memory there? And
my memory's bad, you know, I really don't recall. I don't know, perhaps, I probably did sometime before I left. You know, I remember going with the choir to the different churches,
yes.
Hamilton, Oshawa, St. Catherine's, whatever, and
traveling with them there.
I do think I played it at some times, but it's, I don't really recall for sure. I just remember it being a blessed time, a wonderful time.
But that's okay. I don't want to put you on the spot remembering all the dates.
Well, you just did. It's okay.
History, well, that's 40 years ago. I want to, from 1965, really document all the piano players. And I know Irene Siri, and I know there's Mary Strubyak, there's yourself, and there's Mrs. Kutsenko that was in there.
Mrs. Kutsenko played
a lot of congregational hymning. Irene Lubinsky, Alex Osborne.
Yeah.
So this church produced, when I interviewed the Strubyak family, 4 girls, all piano lessons, and Helen Strubyak, I also believe for the church, played. Lisa Strubyak played. So there's so many. But in my interview last week, it was, you need to know.
I think Lily played too.
Lily
Levinsky.
Okay, yeah.
Jablonski, I think she played.
And Nell Siri played, because I know she
played, right.
Eastern Canada.
And she certainly played at the Hamilton Church, but yes, she played. So, a lot of musicians.
The last 10 or 15 years, Nellie's always on the program, she tells me, and then she got my wife, not you. So it was always Nadia and Nell the last few years, but during the 60s and 70s and early 80s, it was competition to play.
You could say that, you know.
You don't want to miss a Sunday because you'll.
You know, another point of interest is Stephanie used to play the accordion.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we used to do duets.
Yes.
We thought we were really, good stuff.
Piano and accordion.
And I remember one time, it was so funny, it may have been at the Oshawa Church, but she was on the platform playing, and there was this wind. We were in a wind tunnel, and it just kind of closed her accordion up, and she couldn't play. Just stopped it.
And she stopped, or did she?
She had to stop because she couldn't move it. It was so.
Because you got to pull it out and pull it in, and you get something like that stuck, and that's.
And
good story
that's the instrumentalist, and then the vocalists that came out of this church are wonderful too.
Ми є дуже раді мати між нами бувшу піаністку церкви Оксану Войtowicz Kostiw. Оксана з дітьми видала діточу платівку, вона провадила дівочий хор і грала для інших хорів. Оксано, ми просимо тебе до того самого піаніна, де ти багато часу провела, і будемо дуже раді слухати виконання твоєї музичної пачки.
We're going to move right into, because I want to get you
Speaking of
over.
vocalists.
I want to get you right over to the piano in a second, but tell us, I have my wife's trophy here, 1974 to 1980. You probably presented them to all the kids after you finished your time here.
And they presented me with a lovely plaque. I wish I had it here.
And 1974 to 80, that gives you some dates. I'll tell you what I do remember. Every time I'm interviewing someone, I kind of jar their memory with my memories. Going into the basement, I don't know, it was Friday night or Wednesday night, and you were a taskmaster practicing, and Mrs. Siona, Kathy, was sitting outside waiting patiently because there was Terry and Lillian. Mrs. Stuka was sitting out there waiting. They're waiting for their kids. When is OKSANA going to let them go? But they all sat outside or at the back and in the basement. And because I believe you were practicing for the album, you had intense practices. Like
We did.
That's all I remember. It was intense. Yeah. It was hard. There was many hours.
Oh, good.
You traveled a lot.
We did. When we were going to do this record, my parents kind of, inspired me to do this, and then they went with the choir, with other folks too, and kind of a fundraiser. For the
I remember
we went to different churches and the kids sang. And
your mother got up and did the empty the pockets, right? Empty the pockets, donate to this cause, and there was some evenings in the church where the meals, right? And that was quite a bit of money there.
Yeah.
Tell us, when you look at this picture here, I can tell you the names, but do you remember, this is what, it came out in 1980, I believe, or 81, and because I looked at Ann Melnick's newsletter, and it says a new release, so it's 80, 81, 82, and I can help you left to...
Sure, we have Lily Chona here.
Yes.
And Lisa Shibyak, and Stephen Chona, and here's Anna Stuka.
At that time,
and Terry, at that time, Terry Chona. No, this is
Jar Girl.
What's her first name?
She's
it'll be on the back.
Tamara. Do you remember? Is it David and I saw it on here. I saw Tamara somewhere. We'll get to it. David Jar.
There's David Jar, yeah.
But I did see it. Somewhere.
Tamara, you're right.
Yeah, Tamara.
Tamara, yeah.
Rini. Okay, sorry. That's why.
Green. That's right.
Oh, Green.
That's right.
Was she related to?
Yeah. She was granddaughter to the Jars.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Jar's daughter. Okay. That's why her last name was different.
Right.
My brother-in-law Dan, Big Dan.
Big Dan, yeah, and it was wonderful.
He was at your dad's funeral.
Him, yes, and we've been emailing. And of course your sister Lily, and your wife Nadia.
And my wife Nadia.
Yeah, so there they are in their Ukrainian dresses, and again.
Were they were all sold? Were they sold by the parents? These dresses? Do you remember that? I remember.
I wonder if Mrs. Stuka maybe.
Yeah, she always did a lot of sewing.
Yeah.
We'll get to the bottom of that one, but I remember them.
Let me know.
They were sewn by
yes, they
the
would
parents.
have been. I remember buying, them buying the material and stuff like that.
This is the prayer, too, of these Ukrainian young people from Canada. Their song says, "O God, look upon our land in trial and temptation. Who will help us but you?" And the last verse says, "Give us strength and give us hope and deliver us from destruction." A prayer for the Ukraine.
Iisus Hristos, dar se za nas, z любов'ю спів тобі, Адам гріх. Iisus Hristos, dar se za nas, чи не прощаєш ти Христа прийнять? Він нам дає чудовий захист, і вічно просить світ, нам скидай тебе привіт. Ісус Христос, так все за нас, за тебе втечений, спасе.
This was a wonderful project, and just being with the kids and teaching them, and the voices that came out of everybody were, I mean, it was phenomenal. And we decided to do the record, and it took us a little while, to the point that I was actually joking with Danny at the funeral, because I said it took so long that the kids' voices changed, the boys' voices changed. So then I had to rewrite,
Wow.
you know, some harmony
Yes.
to suit the men's
Yes,
voices.
yes,
You know.
because the boys were
So,
getting the deep
yeah,
voices there.
But they had lovely voices, and they were so earnest and so passionate about it. I don't ever remember it being a struggle, you know. But the parents were so dedicated. I mean, this was Friday evening, and that was at the time when I moved back to Toronto, and I remember. After a week of work at the hospital, I'd go and get some Chinese food, and then I'd come over here, and I think we met around 6 o'clock or
Yes.
something like that, and I looked forward to it. It was fun. It was a wonderful time. And
Where did the idea come for the record? Whose idea was that to capture the memory of this?
It was my parents, yeah. And I love the title, Dita da Dita,
Yes.
Children Rejoice. And we were hoping that it could go to Ukraine, and I believe that some of them went over. And as I mentioned to you earlier, it'd be nice to
Get this released on
to
CD.
get this released on CD and keep it going.
I think what's really neat is my daughter Larissa and all of them, you play it and we tell Joshua and Larissa, you know, that's Aunt Lily, but your mother's singing, your Aunt Anne. And when I did the youth group here after I came back from Bible college about 5 years later, we all sang, Paul Siri, myself, Dan, again, just same girls were in there. I think it was Lisa. Oh, Lisa's there, yeah. These kids all graduated to youth, and I made the Toronto Ukrainian Baptist Youth Choir, and my brother Paul recorded it in this corner. And you came in and played a few songs in Ukrainian. You're on that cassette there.
I can hear the sounds of his coming everywhere, in the headlines resounding by the score. It may be another earthquake or just another war, but to every child of God it's something more. And when I hear the sound of marching, hear the sound of battle cry, then I know my Lord is coming, even now it may be nigh, and I can hear the sounds of his coming everywhere. They're getting louder and louder each day, and the crescendo until that great and final sound, when the
So when we play it today, it's great to capture memories so that our kids can actually hear,
Yes.
this is what we did back then.
Right.
Those were our voices. But when your
Right.
daughter starts singing along with the mother on things, that's priceless. And I thank the church and the leadership for all the choir albums they recorded.
Yes.
The men's
Yes.
choir, the men's choir, just, the lady.
Yes.
I've said this before, God has just
Beautiful
gifted our
harmony.
people
Yes.
with so many voices.
Yeah. There's so many people that did so many phenomenal things. It's a very rich history.
Before we move to the clapping pigeons over here and leave this part of the platform, because I know time is always of the essence here today and you've got other things you're working on today, but we're looking at the memories of the church, we're looking at the youth choir as we went, the kids choir, and then I talked about youth, but more on the kids choir. They've all graduated, grown up, families of their own, and a big part of your ministry in this church, Mary Strubyak, in her interview last week said you were her mentor. You were the one that just encouraged her and motivated her to play piano. So in our interview, you'll hear that someday. There are people...
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, before this interview, you don't know, but I let the camera roll with all your practice. You know what? We got to capture just the way you played up and down those keys. And that's what Mary said, you know. There were people sitting in these pews for years, and there are people that played the piano and choir, and my wife has nothing wrong with me saying this. My wife does not play like you or anyone else. She plays by the notes, but get her to play in the way you play, it's a gift. And so
I have been blessed, and it is a gift, and I thank God every day because it's such a rich and wonderful gift that God has given me, and I'm glad that I can use that talent.
I'm going to be remiss, or whatever the word is, not to ask you, and I ask others, how did you get to play piano, and how did you get to play that way? Like, who's instrumental in your life? That's a question I have to ask for people to know. How did you get to that place?
How did I develop my style?
Yes, where did you learn
that
it?
is a good question. I've thought about that, and I think it was probably a number of things. At the time when I was a teen, we used to go to these all-night things at Massey Hall.
Yes.
I think some of that
I went to one of those.
Style, right? The other person, do you recall Dino?
The Kartsanakas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I went to one or two of his concerts.
I heard him in Winnipeg.
Yeah, that's right. I think his style probably influenced me as well. And there's no doubt in my mind that it is a gift from God, because I can sit down and play classical or pop or something, and it's not the same. When I play sacred music, when I play the gospel,
something happens.
Something happens. No doubt about it.
That's what
it's God playing through me.
That's what we want to experience at the piano here, just for a few minutes. When you played, there's just an incredible blessing in it for us coming to church. Mr. Kutsenko's singing every time, the choir's singing. But, excuse me, when you sat down at the piano, and that's why we asked you for, when I did the youth choir, there was something about your playing that filled this place, and I know it was a gift, and may God continue to bless you with that gift.
Thank you very much, and I'll be happy to play a little bit. Now this is totally
unprepared, last minute.
Unprepared, so
but
once we get through the first mistake, we'll be great.
I think you'll really enjoy this as we move to the piano, and just spend a few minutes there, and maybe just after OKSANA finishes there, just a few recollections. She's gone through a tough month, her family, her father passing away just a month ago, but as she's sitting at the piano there, I'll let her just to play from her heart. I've asked her to play one or two verses of favorite songs, like How Great Thou Art, songs that Mr. Bichkowski wrote for the first all-Ukrainian Evangelical Baptist Youth Fellowship. A lot of these songs I've never heard, and someday in my time, this is a book that Brother Bichkowski released in 1948. OKSANA was joking a bit, maybe she'll add a verse or do a song for the 60th Jubilee. To write one song is a big job. Can you imagine when you flip through this book in 1948, every single one of these songs in another documentary was written by Brother Bichkowski in Germany. I remember Sergei Savchuk just telling me a week ago, bombs were dropping in Germany, and Brother Bartchuk and Brother Bichkowski dropped below the tables. And they were writing at that time, and bombs are coming down, and they're writing. But just the amount of songs Brother Bichkowski released, what a gift. And yet many of these men worked full-time jobs during the day, had families. And that's a story in itself to say how God used all of our parents to write books, to write songs, to lead the church in addition to full-time jobs. And those are days, I think, that will never be repeated because it was just a special time of God. So I just want to...
I just want to say I thank all those who have been here, who have been instrumental in my life and my family's life, because you know you pass it on, and this was such a rich heritage, and I'm a Christian because of this church, and I was baptized here, and you know when
you were married. Were you married in this church?
We were married
Yes.
here. My father married us. And then of course, you know, the children came along, Houston and Olena, and they started in Sunday school here. So thank you for keeping this work going to everyone, and continued success. And Peter, thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you. There's so many incredible entries. I put one more sticker in here, page 38. He got baptized January 1964. And in here was Brother Rachun Panko.
Reverend Rachun, that's right.
We have Mike Luchishin, who I think was at your father's funeral.
He was indeed, yes.
He was sitting down on the couch, and I have a great memory, but it's going. I'm 49, going to be 50. And he says, "You remember?" I do remember, but now, Mike, I'm sorry, I want to introduce you as well.
Well,
Someday.
when we were young people, he was the one with the car and the driver's license, who used to drive us around.
Good to know.
That was fun, yeah.
Good
and
to know.
Steph
Stravinsky, yourself, Irene Siri,
Yeah.
Dan Siona, and Brother Paul Osipovich. And that was an incredible year of baptism, just the year before this book came out there.
Yes.
So I'll show you a picture later, close up, but there it is in the book there. And what an incredible history, this first 15 years. I don't think it was ever repeated. It was just an incredible history. And a lot of it is because of the fact that your father captured it in the written word. So thank you for this time. We're going to wrap up this portion, just move to the piano and get Oksana to play a little bit so that you can really, if you've never been to the Toronto church, this is something I always thought about. We had so many gifted people in this church. A lot of us traveled, but I've been to Philadelphia, Chicago, Minnesota, Vineland, every church out west. So many people probably never ever got the opportunity to come to this church, hear our choir. And someday through the internet you'll hear the choirs, the men choir, the ladies choir, the youth, the kids choir, and all the pianists here, and especially Oksana playing on the piano. You missed quite a bit. We were special people to be sitting in these pews. Thank you for joining us. We'll continue at the piano in just a few seconds. Bye for now.
Well, you know, my mom and dad, long time ago, made me do this. They made me practice, and thanks, Mom and Dad, because this is the love of my life, and thanks for a Christian family, and thanks for introducing me to God. And it's a difficult time with the passing of my father, but thank you, Dad, for being faithful to the very end, even when life was difficult. He remained faithful, and he always said to us, may the Good Shepherd always lead you. We'll miss him very much, and as we have missed our mom. But what an honor and a privilege to have godly parents. Thank you, Peter.
I'm back at the piano again just for one or two more songs. If you've listened to Oksana playing here, may her songs touch your heart for eternity. They've touched mine and so many others that have sat here under her piano ministry here at the church. Maybe you've been one of those children that have come through this church, or grandchildren today who have never really understood what your grandparents were all about. They spoke Ukrainian, they wrote in Ukrainian, they came to this church. Many are still alive today, just a few, for 50 or 60 years. And you've come through the doors of this church. You've heard Brother Kubrin, Brother Rachun Panko, Dr. Kostiw, Brother Davidyuk, my father, especially Brother Jack Shahotko, about the only pastor that ever spoke in the English language to our youth and our generation. And you sat in these pews, and it was not the time for you then to accept God into your life. And maybe you're a lot older today, you're hitting 40 or 50 or 60, and your kids have grown up, and you might be sitting at home watching this or on the internet as Oksana plays the song, Just As I Am. Won't you open your heart up? Maybe your parents have gone on to glory. I know they're waiting there for you, and they have prayed many times in this church after the morning services for your salvation, that you would join them in heaven as well. There would be no greater blessing than for you to join your parents if you haven't done so during all these years of coming to our churches. So I'm going to ask Oksana to play at this time. May God's Spirit speak to your heart. And whether it's a word of testimony from Walter Kahut or any person I've interviewed, may you just thank God again for the parents you've had, the grandparents, and treasure that special family He's placed you in. Thank you for listening, Oksana.